and welcome back to the Growth Times Infinity podcast. I am Reggie B, aka the Growth Advocate, and I have a special guest in the building, Hugo Vrsalovic. Let me tell you a little bit about Hugo. Hugo is a gambling recovery coach. He is the host of the 1% in Recovery podcast. He is the face of the Life is Wonderful Love brand. And his most recent achievement is a TEDx speaker. Hugo V, welcome to the podcast, man. I appreciate you accepting the invitation.
Welcome. I appreciate it. It's always a joy to come on any podcast, whether it's my own or somebody else's, to talk it up a little.
Great, great. So I kind of explained to you what I'm doing for the month of June, and I just wanted to kind of put it out there again. But basically, what I'm doing, just telling the audience that I'm bringing on a handful of men. We're celebrating manhood. The idea came from, Father's Day is in the month of June. So basically, what I wanted to do is not only recognize that one day, but I want to acknowledge and recognize men for the whole month of June because there are some men out there doing some incredible, amazing things. And Hugo is one of those men that is doing some amazing things out there with everything he has going on in regards to his coaching. We're going to talk about that in just a moment, everything that he has accomplished. So, Hugo, let's get right into it.
All
Uh,
right.
so we've been knowing each other for a while, right? We've been knowing each other for maybe a few years or so. Um, but for me personally, I'm not really familiar with your story. And I know you have a story in regards to what you do. So if you don't mind, for those, including myself and others who don't know your story, would you like to share that?
Yeah, I'll give you some quick little tidbits. So I am currently 59 years old. So I had my first taste of alcohol at the age of 8, placed my first bet at the age of 12. Ended up, and I'll go through some of I'll catch you up, and then I stopped drinking at 30, stopped gambling at 33. So currently I haven't drank in 29 years and I haven't bet in 26 years. But just like a lot of people in addiction, they start way too young. And for me is I tasted alcohol at age 8 because my dad loved to drink beer, and he would pour a beer and then have a little bit of head. And it was okay for me to drink the head because to me it kind of looked fun, like whipped cream. And so I drank a little bit, and it was even that little bit will get an 8-year-old brain that's already so underdeveloped, getting addicted to any type of drug. And then in gambling, I was age 12, and then there was a guy that was teaching me some Catholic education because I was going to public school in middle school, and bet on the famous 1978 Cotton Bowl, Earl Campbell UT against Notre Dame. I took the Catholics, Notre Dame, and they ended up beating Earl Campbell. I won the $5 bet. Now, you got to think, 1978, $5 is a lot of money, especially for a 12-year-old to be betting. But I won the bet, and here's the thing, I never got paid. So it was one of those things. And then it just kind of continued. So throughout high school, obviously, it was harder back then because, gambling was trickier. Even though I liked gambling more than drinking, it was mainly just drinking beer and, just drank a lot in high school, drank a lot in college, fraternity. So that's when I started picking up. There was bookies in college, and I was a sports bettor. So people know it was all about, and back then it always starts with football, NFL or college. And then back then, you really in college you couldn't bet on basketball or baseball. That happened after UT. So I went to the University of Texas at Austin, and I was up there 5 years. So I was there between 84 and 89. And just like a lot of things, and when I didn't realize when I stopped playing sports because I played basketball and football in high school, going to college, not having that kind of everyday routine practice. Besides not really knowing what I wanted to do. And I think that's a key thing for a lot of people, as they're growing up. They really don't know what they're doing. They feel lost. without a sense of purpose, it's easy to get, so let's do a little, let's do a little drugs, let's do a little drinking, let's do a little gambling, let's go look for women. It's all that kind of just chasing. Because you never know what you want, but you don't you want to do something. And in reality, yeah, I have fun times, but you're pretty much not building anything. And so that's kind of how it did. And then when I got out of college, I came back to Houston. And then in the 20s, started a company. It was going to kind of like with my dad had a side business and I kind of took it off. But that's when everything kind of accelerated, the drinking, clubbing, gambling, and then gambling all the time with also basketball and baseball, finding bookies and just going down that cycle. And then throughout all that, there's money issues, there's relationship issues, there's sex stuff. Uh, and that's why I always notice that everybody has those stories. Everybody has stories where they made money, where they lost money, where they had this great romance, where somehow that there was some negative or bad sexual experiences. The more addicts I've ever talked to, those stories always come up, and it was no different with me. And then finally, when I was 30, it was the 1997 Western Conference Finals, the Houston Rockets against the Utah Jazz. It was Game 6 with Barkley and Olajuwon against Stockton and Malone. And, we were down 3-2. And I said, well, I'll bet on the Rockets. They have to win. We're going to go out drinking and stuff. And sure enough, as everybody here in Houston knows, he went down to the wire. John Stockton hit that buzzer. Jazz won. They went on to play the Bulls, and we went home. So I lost money. I was drunk. I was pissed off. And then later that day, we went to a bar, and I called my girlfriend, and I said, hey, I want to come over, thinking that sex was going to solve my problems, or at least, not have everything be bad, have at least something to be more. And this was the first time she told me no. Then with that rejection and all that arguing, and that's back then when you didn't have cell phones. This is 97, so I'm at one of those pay phones in between the men's and females bathroom, arguing and yelling, begging to try to come over. So I'm assuming it was pretty desperate scene. In the end, she held her ground, and I went home. Obviously broke, drunk, lonely, rejected. Woke up that weekend and said, I got to do something different, man. My life sucks. Something's not working. And it was that kind of thing. And then 2 days later, I went to my first meeting. I go, okay, let me go to a 12-step meeting. I'll just explore it. I had no intention of stopping drinking. I just said, well, they talk a lot about these 12-step rooms. Maybe there's something here. So I went there to kind of like stop for a week. And I went there and I liked the meetings, and I just kept coming back. And then I started to read the literature and realized I don't need alcohol in my life to escape. Now, I kept gambling for 3 years. So, I still had an addiction. And that's kind of happened. And then 3 years later, it was kind of like the same story as when you had enough is enough. And then I sought out another 12-step program. And then that's how I began my journey. Kind of just a quick, and then throughout that, there's been ups and downs in recovery. But the key thing is I realized for me, alcohol and gambling are just poison to my body. There's nothing good that comes out of it. So that'll kind of just give you a quick little story. There's something you want me to add or explain?
So yeah, that's a very interesting story. You starting off at a very young age with your dad. Yeah, you at one point you mentioned that you kicked the addiction of drinking, but then gambling it took you a little bit longer. So of course with your story, that is the reason why you do what you do. Talk to us about that as far as like how you help your clients, that type stuff. What do you do, as far as helping out your clients?
Okay, so then I was all right. So I was in recovery, and so this is like 2019. I was at a retreat, and I wasn't supposed to. I opened the retreat, and I wasn't supposed to close the retreat, and then as the person had to go home. So then there was the night before they were closing the retreat. It was a 3-day retreat. Come in on Friday evening, leave like it's Sunday lunch. And so I went to my place and I said, well, I want to make it kind of fun. So what I did is I rewrote the 12 steps of recovery. So instead of saying, we are powerless over alcohol or we're powerless over gambling, I said, our addiction lies to us, which is the reality of it. And then number two, I noticed a lot of people struggle when you start talking about God and higher power. I just said, to me, step two was we need help. I mean, as long as a person can acknowledge they can't do this alone, and they can't, whether it's a treatment center, a therapist, a recovery coach, 12-step rooms, you need help. And then so I did that. And then retreat ended. Then a few months later, I had an intern for a couple weeks, and I realized, yeah, I thought it'd be kind of cool to share the message because I got some good feedback. And so she set my YouTube channel up, which was which is actually Life is Wonderful, Love, Hugo V, because there was a song that was Life is Wonderful that kind of put me way down. So you kind of add the Life is Wonderful and Hugo V. Uh, and then I just put out that first video. We created a 7-minute video, which a lot of people love. I still, have it up on my site. It's got over, I think 1,100 views. And I just share people, kind of go through it. And then I did a second video explaining kind of each step on, my own interpretation of the steps. And so what I was really trying to do was just put out some content on YouTube to just help people in recovery, from my knowledge, like they say, share. And then as a couple years go by, and then of course there was COVID, this and that, and I wanted to speak and I couldn't speak, and I realized, well, people are selling courses, people have all this other stuff online. So then I created a logo, created a website, and then met a mutual friend of ours, someone at a one of those YouTube get-togethers here in Houston. I don't know if that was the first time we met, either at YouTube or a podcast. And then I met the guy who kind of run the podcast group, Ozeal, and he told me about podcasting where I can control the message. And that made sense to me. So then I started a podcast. I changed the name once from Life is Wonderful because no one could find me to the 1% in recovery. I made it much more specific, successful gamblers and alcoholics stopping addiction. And so, right now I got, 248 episodes. And then like last year, I started a Spanish podcast also on recovery, trying to get the dual message out. And then the way I help people, besides people who need more intense stuff, where there's a lot more coaching and going through the steps, I realize there's too many college kids or people even looking for relationships, and they really don't have an understanding of how to build strong character. So the one thing that I've kind of pushed and I've kind of developed is this course that's under $100, Strong Leader, Strong Character, where I ask 3 questions like on honesty, hope, discipline. And I'll give you examples. So, I'm always a feeling like you go to a grocery store and there's something new, they give you a sample. So people always want to know, okay, well, give me a sample question. So to me is like on honesty, the question that would be in there would be, are you able to be completely honest with yourself and everybody on who you are and what you want, what has happened in your past, what you're currently dealing with, and what you want to do in the future? And the question number 2 on honesty is, if some random person came up and go, okay, and I walked up to them, I go, can you describe Reggie to me? And they could tell me, like, the main parts of who you truly are, okay, oh, you grew up more on the north side of Houston. Okay, oh, you have a podcast. Oh, all the different, certain things. To me is that's how you kind of need to start. One thing is you being clear with yourself and with others on who you are. but that others are clear on where you're going now. Like people now can say, okay, yeah, besides being a podcast and recovery coach, I like going to the gym. I like trying, Houston's got a great food scene. I like staying in shape. Uh, so that kind of where I'm at. And then the whole thing just came up. I've been trying to get on like a tech. We can go to that here in a sec, but I will try to get on TEDx stage for 4 years, and finally got on one this year.
Yeah, that was definitely quite an accomplishment. And you just mentioned, I was wondering about that because I know you recently did that about a week or two ago. Um, Tell us about that 4 year journey in regards to the process and how you came about that opportunity to become a TEDx speaker.
Well, I've always loved. So when I got out of college, and I was in college for 5 years, I started as a pharmacy major, finished in a business. And the one thing, even though I loved when I took one speech course in high school, one speech course in college, I loved being delivering speeches. But I also knew what they teach you in high school or college is nothing. They just kind of like, let you like, it's like going out on like on the court and you play horse. And it's like, well, I want more. I want to do something else. So I sought out Toastmasters after I graduated from UT about a year later after I got out. And that was beneficial. I tell anyone, especially young adults, a lot of people join Toastmasters after they've been out in the workforce for a while, like in their 30s or 40s when they're trying to move up. And so I did that, and I learned how to give more speeches, and I loved giving speeches. And in Toastmasters, and I know you're in it, you talk about prepared speeches, impromptu speaking, and how to do evaluations. And so, but then as I was doing that, and I actually gave I had a couple paid engagements. I talked about teamwork, I talked about attitude. But, my heart wasn't fully in it. And then I was also still kind of an addict. So I was I always kind of wanted to do more public speaking. And then I got into recovery, and then there was places, where I would speak, but it wasn't anything kind of going. And then as this whole thing with the recovery coach came after kind of more like 2021, 2022, and I started getting going more with podcasting, I said, you know what? And I'd see on social media people giving TEDx talks and go, I want to do that. I want to get on the red dot and I want to deliver a speech. And then in the beginning, I wanted to talk about recovery. So my first time I applied to University of Texas had an application. I applied there, didn't get on. Applied to a couple others. Last year I applied to TEDx Third Ward. Became a semifinalist, but I didn't become a finalist. But I went to the one of the events. I mean, one of the sessions that they had in January, and just trying to see how it was. Got more excited. So in January, I decided, well, I'm going to make this a goal, really, and really do go kind of like really push even harder here in 2026. Beginning of January, I applied to TEDx Harlem in New York, TEDx Inglewood in LA, TEDx Third Ward again here in Houston. And I ended up hearing from Houston first, even though their deadline was after the other two. I got semifinalist, and then I was kind of seeing, okay, and I said, so eventually TEDx Third Ward said yes. TEDx Inglewood kind of knew ahead of time that they wanted to stay local, and they did. So Inglewood told me no. And then later on, I found out from Harlem, they were kind of similar. They wanted to keep, how to really help Harlem, not even New York City. It was mainly more about how can we advance issues dealing with Harlem. And they'd also told me no, but I got on the TEDx Third Ward. Like I'm saying, just like on any goal, as you get like a taste of it and flavor, you want to do more. So you've got to make yourself more available. And I knew ahead of time afterwards in the springtime, there was a TEDx in Sam Houston. So I knew that there's always different avenues or different cities. Is the question, if you have to me is you got to come up with a topic that's kind of a little bit different, because gambling is such a heavy topic now with all the major sports leagues, and now with all the prediction markets with Kalshi and all the stuff with FanDuel and DraftKings in the NFL. So I knew that it had a lot of appeal. And so my topic was the dream world of the gambler. And I got on. So, a lot of times, people need to think about, obviously what can they talk about that could be kind of not only kind of inspire, but, an idea to share. That's the whole thing behind TED, an idea to share. And then you got to, to me, think of three things: an idea, but you also got to think of do you have kind of a catchy title, just like on anything? And then, kind of prepare and realize that you can do other speeches as you prepare, because here in TEDx Third Ward, it was complete. I did all my speeches before memorized, but this was a memory. You got to give it completely memorized. There's no podium. There's nothing. You can't even have a note card. Nothing. You're completely on the dot and pretty much naked. So whatever comes out of your mouth is coming out of your mouth. Like they say, better be good.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to make it to this TEDx Talk Third Ward. I had wanted to, but something came up, so I wasn't able to make it. But I did attend one actually at Lone Star College last year, and I had been intrigued by TEDx Talk for quite some time myself, and for me to see achieve that goal and accomplish that, man, that's great. That's great. So
Well, here's the thing. I mean, whether for you or for anybody in your audience, it takes about 8 weeks. They say 8 to 12, but usually it's 8 weeks. So my stuff will be on the TED website in about 8 weeks, and I'll share it with you, so you can share it. And I also did that kind of like Oziel was the same way. He had some last minute family thing, and he kind of wanted to share it with all the other podcasters or YouTubers, because what I noticed that whether you're a YouTuber or a podcaster, there's a lot of us that TEDx or writing a book is a piece of what we want to share with the world.
and I imagine with everything, as far as like doing a TEDx talk, with your topic, your subject matter being unique helps as well. I would imagine. You have
Yeah,
a
it did.
topic, yeah, for sure, for sure.
I'm
Okay,
sorry, I missed the last part. Maybe when I was.
I was just saying that your topic, your subject matter is very unique. So I imagine that helps in regards to getting a TEDx.
Yeah, right. It does. That's what I'm saying. If you have something that's a little more unique, you're going to get elevated, because a lot of people have some type of medical story, something that happened, whether it was cancer or grief or some type of addiction, this thing. Because mine was more of an overview of gambling. It wasn't about my gambling career. A lot of other people will talk, have talked either about leadership or, slow down, a lot of those talks that you see a lot of, that have been out there. You just got to have like a unique twist. How is your twist going to, make an impact, and it's not kind of like rehashing something that a lot of people already know.
Makes sense for sure. So with everything that you have going on with your coaching, and you got your first TEDx speech out of the way, and you helping people, where do you see yourself in about 5 or 10 years?
Well, I can tell you in the next few months. So what my original plan, when I was trying to develop a course on the 12 steps, as well as write a book on the 12 steps. And so I was trying to do I was going to record one video on step one, and I was going to write chapter one, step one. I did that for the first 5. This was back in 22, and realizing I was going way too slow, because I would record an episode. So I said, I got to stop writing. And I finished the course, because like a lot of people, you're going to start a business, need some type of product or service to sell or to, benefit people. So that's what I did. So I already had those first 5 chapters, and I had a friend of mine from college, a lawyer, and he edited them. So I had those already kind of cleaned up. So right now that I did this whole thing with character course, I did this thing with TEDx. My goal right now here in the latter part of this year is to finish the book that I already had started, write these I started this week trying to do 12 chapters total, 5 are done. Just finish these next 7 chapters and then get that out. So that's what's going to be shown in the next 5 to 10 years is using both podcasts, English and Spanish on recovery, and then obviously have that as, kind of like credentials, an author, TEDx speaker, to just get on more stages with middle schools, high schools, as well as corporations, and then coaching individual people. So I saw, a lot of people want to be a speaker, some people want to be a coach. I like doing both. The one thing I like about the coaching is I'm still here in Houston. I can either coach people either face to face or online, and then speaking, I would just either speak here in obviously in town or travel, because I realized I don't want to always be just traveling to give speeches. And I just think there's just a lot of value in coaching. And so that's that's how I want to evolve the whole Life is Wonderful company, to do and mainly just focus on that speaking and coaching and kind of grow from there. And just because I know, unfortunately, gambling's only going to get bigger, and there's going to be, unfortunately, more people falling into the trap of gambling, thinking they're going to make easy money. Instead, they're going to be losing 5, 10 times what they thought they were going to win. Gambling out of all of them is the big lie.
I mean, as far as gambling, it's definitely out there. You kind of mentioned it. It's a big thing in sports right now. They got these sites, and I'm not too familiar with it. Honestly, I don't really pay attention to it personally, but it's out there for sure. But it's good.
Yeah, you can't turn on the TV and they don't have gambling lines on the bottom of the screen, or the announcers talking about it. You can't even avoid it. You can't watch highlights on ESPN and they're not even doing it. You can't. It's so out. And then they'll say that we're not marketing to kids. Here's a statistic. Common Sense Media says 51% of male 16-year-olds in this country have placed at least one gambling bet this year. And that's 16-year-olds. The National Council on Problem Gambling has states that 48% of males age 18 to 49 have at least one sports betting app on their phone. So, and then all those gambling companies are bragging about how much money they're making. It's got to come from somewhere. It's not coming out of the sky.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's definitely out there. So makes you kind of wonder, why are they targeting, people so young?
Because they're much more impulsive.
That's true. That's true.
And they usually have money issues, or they want to get some so-called extra money so they can brag to their friends or dates or whoever. And then they can go to a steak dinner, buy a bottle at a club, do all that so-called free stuff with all this gambling money that they want, or drug money, however you get money.
Yeah, I don't have much experience as far as gambling, but the little experience that I have and some people that I know is that, of course you might win at the beginning, but you end up losing more on the back end. So that's
exactly that's how they hook you. That's how your brain gets brainwashed, manipulated.
Yeah, because I know, and even as recent, my wife and I, we went to where did we go? We went to the boardwalk, Louisiana boardwalk last year, and she won like $30 on one of those machines, and she wanted to play again. I'm telling her, man, you know what? Just take that $30 and we can do something with it. Maybe go get something to eat or something. But as soon as she won that 30, she lost it. So that's how it is.
There you go.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, that's how it is. So
it's a mathematical. Here's the thing: it's a mathematical equation. If you win, you happen to just get lucky, and then just take your money, buy dinner, or do whatever, because you're not going to double it.
Right. Yeah. Like you say, that's how they get you. They let you, they let you win so you can keep going. But then they get you. They're going to get you eventually. The house always wins. Is that what they say?
In the long run, yes. In the long run.
The house always wins. Okay. Well, Hugo V, once again, I appreciate you coming on to the Growth Times Infinity podcast. Would you like to let the audience know how they can connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, one great way is website, lifeiswonderful.love. So it's all one word, lifeiswonderful.love, LOVE. That's the website. Other way, you could just either find the same thing, lifeiswonderful.love on IG or TikTok, or you just find my name, Hugo Vrsalovic, on LinkedIn. Those are usually the ways to first contact me. And I got some free stuff on there. Like I have this recovery growth scorecard for free to help people like start like with recovery. I'm a big believer in getting people going. That's why I said I gave you those first couple questions on honesty, or I give this scorecard. I always try to give out a lot of free information. One, so you get more comfortable with me, but number two is you actually have something real that you could start you on the way to to having a better life, because you don't really need to get sucked into the whole gambling, or even if you're alcohol or drugs. That road never leads to this great life that we all envision.
Okay. Well, there it is. That's how you can connect with Hugo V. Once again, I just wanted to bring you on and just wanted to celebrate you for all your
I
accomplishments.
appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, first and foremost, getting over your addiction for so many years. Along with that, getting your first TEDx speech out of the way, TEDx talk rather out of the way. I know there's more to come. I know it's the first of many. So, just keep striving, keep growing, and keep going.
That's right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I am Reggie B with Hugo V, and I appreciate you all tuning into this episode of the Growth Times Infinity podcast. And until the next time, keep growing and keep going.